Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba and with me is R.S. Renuka, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India says a stable, sovereign and peaceful Afghanistan is the basis for peace and progress in the region. Indian Navy to take part in French naval exercise in Bay of Bengal along with other Quad member countries. Sixth round of India-Australia dialogue on disarmament, non-proliferation and export control takes place virtually. New Delhi contributes $150,000 to the UN Peace Building Fund. UN calls for unhindered access to Xinjiang over Beijing's human rights violations. WHO releases the report on the origin of COVID-19, calls for further studies on origin of the virus and reiterates that all hypotheses remain open. And Saraswati Samman 2020 goes to noted Marathi writer Dr. Sharan Kumar Limbale for his book Sanatan. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, take all precautions, and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar emphatically stressed on the need to promote durable peace in Afghanistan for shared interests of countries in the Heart of Asia region. Speaking at the 9th Heart of Asia Ministerial Conference in Dushanbe, Tajikistan on Tuesday, Dr. S. Jaishankar asserted that for durable peace in Afghanistan, every stakeholder should work towards genuine double peace mechanism, which includes peace both within and around Afghanistan. He said this requires harmonizing the interests of all, both within and around that country. Dr. Jaishankar said that if the peace process is to be successful, then it is necessary to ensure that the negotiating parties continue to engage in good faith and with a serious commitment towards reaching a political solution. External Affairs Minister said that the aim of a more inclusive Afghanistan, which can overcome decades of conflict, will happen only if the stakeholders and participating countries stay true to the principles that Heart of Asia platform has long embodied. He also stated that collective success may not be easy, but the only remaining alternative would be collective failure. Later, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discussed expanding bilateral economic and development cooperation with Tajikistan President Imam Ali Rahman in Dushanbe. He appreciated Mr. Rahman's assessment of the Afghan situation. Dr. Jaishankar also met his Kazakhstan counterpart Mukhtar Tilyubekdi on the sidelines of Heart of Asia Ministerial Conference. In a tweet, the minister said they reviewed bilateral and international cooperation. Before commencement of the Ministerial Conference at the Heart of Asia Conference, Dr. Jaishankar called on the President of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani. Mr. Ghani and Dr. Jaishankar shared the perspectives on the peace process. Dr. Jaishankar began his Heart of Asia engagements with a meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif. He also met Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, on the sidelines of the conference. The discussions focused on Afghanistan-related developments and on the India-Turkey bilateral relations. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The Heart of Asia Istanbul process was founded in November 2011 in Istanbul, Turkey. It provides a platform for sincere and result-oriented regional cooperation by placing Afghanistan at its center in recognition of the fact that a secure and stable Afghanistan is vital to the prosperity of the Heart of Asia region. This platform was established to address the shared challenges and interests of Afghanistan and its neighbors and regional partners. It is comprised of 15 participating and 17 supporting countries, along with 12 supporting regional and international organizations. India India co-hosted the 6th Heart of Asia Ministerial Conference in Amritsar, Punjab in 2016. The platform's constructive role is also consistent with India's vision of achieving lasting stability and prosperity for Afghanistan, anchored in a regional environment that is united, stable, secure, pluralistic, democratic, and economically prosperous. As the lead country for trade, commerce, and confidence-building measure under the Heart of Asia process, India has made concerted efforts for strengthening regional connectivity for the greater economic integration of Afghanistan with the region. Foreign Minister's visit will further enhance India's outreach to Central Asian countries with a special focus on Afghanistan. Anand Chaturvedi, AIR News, Delhi.
India is to participate in France-led naval drill La Pérouse for the first time in the Bay of Bengal next month. Australia, Japan and the US will also participate in La Pérouse, but India's first ever participation is seen as a significant step. The exercise is scheduled between April 5 and 7. After La Pérouse, another important naval exercise, the India-French Varun exercise, will also take place. This time it will also include the United Arab Emirates. The strategic relationship between France and India, which has been on an upward trajectory, has expanded considerably in the last 2 decades. France was supportive of India's nuclear tests in 1998, when most of the Western world's first reaction was to impose sanctions.
Meanwhile, 2 French naval ships arrived at Cochin Port Trust on Tuesday on a goodwill visit to Kochi. The ships Athana, amphibious assault ship, and Sarkov, frigate-class ship, were received by senior naval authorities amidst fanfare by the naval band. French delegation comprising Emmanuel Lenné, ambassador in India at New Delhi, was also present as part of the visit. Our correspondent reports that interactions between India and France have evolved into a strong partnership, especially in the domain of maritime security. The regular conduct of bilateral exercises, goodwill visits by ships, and high-level delegation visits are indicative of growth in mutual cooperation. The 6th round of India-Australia dialogue on disarmament, non-proliferation and export control was held Tuesday virtually. The two sides exchanged views on contemporary issues of mutual interest in the areas of nuclear, chemical, biological disarmament and non-proliferation, conventional weapons, outer space security and strategic export control. The dialogue facilitated enhanced mutual understanding and appreciation of national perspectives and global developments on non-proliferation and disarmament issues that will contribute to the India-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership.
Petroleum Minister of India Dharmendra Pradhan and US Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm have agreed to revamp India-US Strategic Energy Partnership (SEP). Mr. Pradhan held an introductory meeting virtually with US Energy Secretary on Monday and reviewed the SEP. The two leaders agreed to revamp the India-US SEP to reflect the new priorities of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Joe Biden, with focus on promoting clean energy with low carbon pathways and accelerating green energy cooperation. During the meeting, they also agreed to prioritize greater collaboration in cleaner energy sector and joint R&D through partnership to advance clean energy research, among other initiatives. Besides, both sides agreed to convene the 3rd meeting of a revamped India-US SEP at an early date. They decided to intensify the efforts to take advantage of the complementarities of both the countries, advanced US technologies and rapidly growing India's energy market for a win-win situation through a cleaner energy route with low carbon pathways. The Indo-US Joint Special Forces exercise, Vajra Prahar 2021, was conducted at Special Forces Training School at Bakhleo in Himachal Pradesh this month. The joint exercise by the Special Forces of both the countries is conducted alternatively between India and the US. It is aimed at sharing the best practices and experiences in areas such as joint mission planning and operational tactics. Our correspondent reports bilateral military exercises and defense exchanges are an important facet of deepening bilateral defense cooperation between friendly countries. During such events, the armies of participating nations jointly train, plan and execute a series of operations for neutralization of threats of various nature.
A video shared by Indian ambassador in US, Taranjeet Singh Sandhu, featuring some members of the US Navy, has garnered much praise from netizens. Shared on Sandhu's official Twitter handle, the video shows the group of 4 US Navy members singing a popular Bollywood song accompanied with instruments. The clip was also shared on the US Navy band's Twitter. A 2-day naval exercise of India and the US have concluded on Monday in the Bay of Bengal. India has contributed $150,000 to the UN Peace Building Fund, PBF. India's permanent mission of India to the United Nations in a statement said that New Delhi renewed its commitment to the UN's peace-building efforts with a concomitant hope that more funding by member states will boost efforts by the world body to build and sustain peace. As India entered the Security Council for the term 2021-22, this contribution reaffirms its commitment to peace and security and the broader UN work on peace building. India has been a member of the Peace Building Commission since its inception in December 2005. It has so far contributed nearly $6 million to the Peace Building Fund. The fresh contribution of $150,000 to the fund was made earlier this week. The Peace Building Fund is the UN's financial instrument of first resort to sustain peace in countries or situations at risk or affected by violent conflict. The fund has invested over $1.2 billion to date in over 60 countries, with support from almost 60 member states. India continues to also assist countries bilaterally in post-conflict situations by providing substantial grants and soft loans on projects at the grassroots level. India has handed over the gift of 1 lakh made-in-India COVID-19 vaccine doses to Paraguay under its Vaccine Maitri initiative. Earlier, Zimbabwe, Niger and Fiji received made-in-India COVID-19 vaccines on Monday. President of Paraguay, Marito Abdo, thanked India for sending the COVID-19 vaccine. Prime Minister of Fiji, Frank Bainimarama, thanked Prime Minister Narendra Moody for helping them take the giant step towards a post-pandemic future for Fiji and for the world. President of Zimbabwe, Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, also thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for supplying the vital first shipment of 75,000 Covaxin vaccines for Zimbabweans. Under the Vaccine Maitri initiative, India has already provided coronavirus vaccines to over 70 countries.
The Government of India has asked states and union territories to prepare a district action plan to check the spread of COVID-19. Under this plan, states have been asked to set up emergency operation centers with a team to monitor the indicators, growth and spread of the virus round the clock. In another development, India's aviation regulator, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, has asked for enhanced surveillance pertaining to COVID-19 protocols at the airports. In an advisory issued on Tuesday, the DGCA has said that during the surveillance of some airports, the compliance towards COVID-19 protocols was not found satisfactory. It further asked all airport operators to ensure that the instructions on COVID-19 protocol from the standpoint of wearing face masks properly, covering nose and mouth, as well as maintaining social distancing norms within the airport premises are followed scrupulously. The flight regulator has also asked the airport operators to explore the possibility of taking punitive action, such as levy of spot fines after consultation with the local police authorities. It said punitive action may serve as a deterrent for violation of COVID-19 protocols within the airport premises. More than 601 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in the country till now. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry has informed that over 500,000 doses have been administered to the beneficiaries in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 recovery rate stands at 94.18%. And now let's take a look at the COVID updates from around the world.
UK Business Minister Kwasi Kwarteng said on Tuesday that UK plans to vaccinate all its adults before sharing vaccine with other countries. More than 30 million people have received their first COVID-19 shots in UK. The country aims to offer shots to all adults by the end of July. Honduras has said that it would temporarily restrict arrivals from South America. The decision came citing fears about the Brazilian variant of the coronavirus entering its territory. Japanese Health Minister Norihisa Tamura has apologized for staff breaking COVID-19 protocols. Earlier, media had reported that Health Ministry employees had gathered at a restaurant in Tokyo in violation of the government's COVID-19 contagion protocols. Russia said on Tuesday that Mali has approved the use of Sputnik V vaccine against COVID-19. Nishit Kumar for World News.
The WHO has released the Wuhan field visit report on origin of coronavirus. The report calls on WHO to identify the zoonotic source of the virus and the route of introduction to the human population, including the possible role of intermediate hosts, including through efforts such as scientific and collaborative field missions. The report stems from a member state resolution adopted by consensus at the World Health Assembly in May 2020. WHO chief thanked the team for their tireless work. He said that the report advances the understanding in important ways and raising questions need to be addressed by further studies. WHO chief said that as far as WHO is concerned, all hypotheses remain on the table. Dr. Tedros said the report is a very important beginning, but it is not the end. He added that finding the origin of a virus takes time and WHO owe it to the world to find the source. Meanwhile, a group of world leaders have joined World Health Organization (WHO) in calling for an international treaty to improve pandemic preparedness and response for the sake of future generations.
In a joint article published on Tuesday, the signatories said that the coronavirus pandemic has been a stark and painful reminder that nobody is safe until everyone is safe. It added that there will be other pandemics and other major health emergencies. The leader said that the world must be better prepared to predict, prevent, detect, assess and effectively respond to pandemics in a highly coordinated fashion. Speaking to the media, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros highlighted that the idea behind the proposal for the treaty is to systematically tackle the gaps exposed by COVID-19. Nishit Kumar for World News.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
Welcome back. Widespread protests continued in Myanmar on Tuesday, even as the military government of the country used heavy force against the protesters in the country. A report.
The protests continued in Myanmar on Tuesday, even as the death toll crossed 510 following violent suppression by the military government of the country. As part of the civil disobedience movement against the military government, the activists asked residents to throw garbage onto streets on key road intersections. According to the human rights group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners of Myanmar, 510 people have been killed till Monday. AAPP reports that 2,574 people have been detained since the military ousted the civilian government led by Aung San Suu Kyi. On Monday, 14 civilians were killed, including at least 8 in Yangon South Jagon neighborhood, the AAPP said. Rajesh Jha, World News, All India Radio, Dhaka.
Diplomats from various countries, members from multilateral organizations, Chinese friends from different walks of life joined the holy celebrations at the Indian Embassy in Beijing. They celebrated the joy of togetherness on the Festival of Colors. Ambassador Vikram Misri welcomed around 500 foreign guests as they witnessed the joy and fun in a grand show of India's soft power. Mr. Misri highlighted the significance of Holi, the social ethos and the festivities associated. Scintillating performances by Chinese and Indian artists showcasing classical and folk dance forms of India kept the audience spellbound. Besides the cultural program and sumptuous Indian food, foreigners lived the moment to the hilt in a burst of colors as they smeared each other's faces with herbal holy colors and danced to the tunes of peppy Indian songs. Leaders from different countries have extended their greetings to the people of India on the joyous occasion. Holi is celebrated by the people of various cultures across the world. More from our Beijing correspondent.
In a huge diplomatic outreach on a fun-filled and joyous Holi festival, Ambassador Vikram Misri hosted some 500 guests from diplomatic corps and Chinese friends who immersed themselves in the colors of togetherness. The Indian Embassy in China has been actively promoting the soft power connection with other countries, especially between India and China. It held the Diwali festival in Beijing in November 2020, celebrated Vishwa Hindi Divas in March 2021, along with the launch of India at 75. Chinese fans of Indian superstar Amir Khan also held his birthday celebration at the embassy premises in March. Professor Chiang Chenghui, head of Hindi department at Peking University, who was a special guest at Vishwa Hindi Divas program, is of the opinion that language and cultural events are good examples of the potential exchanges between India and China. He said the rough phase in the bilateral relations is for a very short period. Both the countries have spent a long time in friendly exchanges and learning from each other throughout history, and cultural exchanges have always played a significant role, he added. In a conversation with Chinese state media, he said that China also needs to learn from India on how to respect, accept, and inherit traditional culture in terms of soft power. For World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
The National People's Congress of China on Tuesday unanimously approved the changes to be introduced to the Hong Kong Constitution to reform the electoral system, thereby reducing the number of directly elected legislators in Hong Kong. It also delayed the city's elections until December. On March 11th, the legislature decided to proceed with the aforementioned reforms after a national security law was passed there in 2020. The decision seeks to ensure that the administrative region remains in the hands of patriots and neutralize the anti-China segments. The local government must report Beijing every step of the process up to the vote concludes. Defending the decision, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the reforms will not prevent political parties with different tendencies from running for local elections. United Nations human rights experts have raised serious concerns about the alleged detention and forced labor of Muslim Uyghur in China. The experts have called for unhindered access to the country to conduct fact-finding missions and urged global and domestic companies to closely scrutinize their supply chains. Several experts appointed by the Human Rights Council said they have received information that connected over 150 domestic Chinese and foreign domiciled companies to serious allegations of human rights abuses against Uyghur workers. The UN Rights Panel said they were ready to strengthen dialogue with the government of China at the earliest opportunity. The panel said that an official visit to China, including the Xinjiang region, would be the ideal opportunity for such dialogue and to assess the situation based on free and unhindered access.
UN Habitat report has called for cities to lead the way to a fairer, greener and healthier future post-pandemic. A report.
A new report on cities and pandemics was launched by UN Habitat on Tuesday. The report points the way to how most affected cities can reduce the impact of future outbreaks and become more equitable, healthy and environmentally friendly. It describes how urban areas have been at the forefront of the COVID-19 crisis. Maimuna Mohammad Sharif, UN Habitat Executive Director, said that 95% of all cases were recorded in cities in the first months of the pandemic. It found that patterns of inequality due to a lack of access to basic services, poverty and overcrowded living conditions have been key destabilizing factors in increasing the scale and impact of COVID-19. This requires governments to focus on policies to protect land rights, improve access to water, sanitation, public transport, electricity, health and education facilities, and ensure inclusive digital connectivity. The report makes it clear that the cities which recover from the pandemic will have a major impact on the global effort to achieve a sustainable future for all. Nishit Kumar for World News.
And now news from the business world. Key indices at the domestic stock markets posted over 2% gains today, but the rupee slumped against the US dollar. In the international markets, crude oil prices traded sharply lower. A report.
The Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange shot up 1,128 points or 2.3% to close at 50,137. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange spurted 338 points or 2.3% to 14,845. In the broader market, the BSE Mid-Cap Index advanced 1% and the Small Cap Index climbed 1.3%. Asian markets ended higher today as investors remained focused on the global vaccination program and shook off worries about a hedge fund default in the US that hit international banking stocks overnight. So Japan's Nikkei 225 index gained 0.2%. China's Shanghai Composite Index rose 0.6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index climbed 0.8%. South Korea's Kospi Index advanced 1.1%. And Singapore's Straits Times Index added 0.5%. In Europe, London's FTSE 100 had gained 0.3%. France's CAC 40 had climbed 0.6%, while Germany's DAX had also advanced 0.6% to trade at a new record high in intraday trade. Global crude oil prices fell as the Suez Canal opened up after days closed by the grounded super carrier. The focus now turns to an OPEC Plus meeting this week. So Brent crude slipped $1.43 to trade at $63.55 a barrel. U.S. crude futures declined $1.58 to $59.98 a barrel. Back home, gold slipped 138 points to 44,113 rupees per 10 grams at Delhi's bullion market today on weak global cues. Silver declined 320 rupees to 63.212 rupees per kilo. In the international market, gold was trading lower at $1,698 per ounce, while silver was flat at $24.49 per ounce. And the forex market, the rupee tanked 87 paise to 73 rupees and 38 paise against the US dollar. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
The European Union has fined credit ratings firm Moody's for failing to disclose conflicts of interest. The European Securities and Markets Authority, ESMA, said on Tuesday that it has fined credit ratings firm Moody's €3.7 million for breaching rules including the failure to disclose conflicts of interest. The ESMA said that the rating agency breaches a rule that prevents agencies from issuing ratings on companies in which they own 10% or more of its share or where they have a board position. It added that the fine was for 5 Moody's entities based in France, Germany, Italy, Spain and Britain. Meanwhile, Moody's responded that the regulator had recognized the steps it has taken to prevent similar infringements in the future. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press.
The Washington Post reports that new U.S. coronavirus cases rose by 12%. Nation braces for fourth pandemic wave. The Guardian reports that UK criticized for ignoring Paris climate goals in infrastructure decisions. It also carried a report that the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, and his government have been accused of trying to sabotage the country's human rights watchdog. The Sydney Morning Herald has reported that WHO says all hypotheses warrant investigation ahead of report into origins of COVID-19. The Globe and Mail reports that investigation into Suez Canal blockage begins after workers partially float container ship. South China Morning Post writes that the United States considering additional UN sanctions on North Korea after missiles tests. And Khalij Times reports that only COVID-19 vaccinated pilgrims can visit Makkah, Medina to perform Hajj and Umrah this year. Nishit Kumar for World News.
Noted Marathi writer Dr. Sharan Kumar Limbale will receive Saraswati Samman 2020 for his book Sanatan. The award carries 1.5 million rupees, a citation and a plaque. Saraswati Samman, instituted by K.K. Birla Foundation in 1991, is recognized as one of the prestigious and highest literary awards in India. Dr. Limbale's Marathi novel Sanatan was published in 2018. It is based on the contribution of tribals and backward communities in the freedom struggle of India. A quick look at the headlines once again. India says a stable, sovereign and peaceful Afghanistan is the basis for peace and progress in the region. Indian Navy to take part in French naval exercise in Bay of Bengal along with other Quad member countries. 6th round of India-Australia dialogue on disarmament, non-proliferation and export control takes place virtually. New Delhi contributes $150,000 to the UN Peace Building Fund. UN calls for unhindered access to Xinjiang over Beijing's human rights violations. WHO releases the report on the origin of COVID-19, calls for further studies on origin of the virus and reiterates that all hypotheses remain open. And Saraswati Samman 2020 goes to noted Marathi writer Dr. Sharan Kumar Limbale for his book Sanatan. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Janto, by artists from Tajikistan. And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.